One of my most anticipated games of this year is this one. This is the Battles of the American Revolution series Tri-Pack Volume 2 from GMT Games, designed by Mark Miklos. This is the companion volume to the first Tri-Pack, which we see here. This came out in it says 2017 on the box, but I don't know if 2017 is when it came out. I think it came out a little bit after that, but I guess it must have been. So yeah, it's been a while. I can't believe it's been so long. So this was the first kind of recollection of the Boar series into a amazing value package with the first 3 volumes of the series. The first volume of the series was Saratoga. That was published in 1999. And here we are in 2025, 26 years later, and we have got 6 of the 10 released volumes here in these giant omnibus editions, which I think is a fantastic way to collect these games. This is super fun system, very playable, not very heavyweight, but gives a really nice period flavor and some really interesting design decisions as well. I recently did a live stream with designer Mark Miklos where we played one of the newer titles in the system, the Battle of White Plains. We did the Chatterton Hill scenario. So if you want to check that out, it was about a 3-hour playthrough plus interview with Mark talking about the system, what's coming up, what's next. And when we talked to him, he was excited that this was coming out imminently. So here we are, we finally got it. Volume 1 had Guilford, Saratoga, and Brandywine, but it also had Utah Springs, which was a companion game to Guilford Courthouse. When it was originally published, it actually came with a little bonus smaller battle. And so this is actually, though it is called a tri-pack, it is a trio of previously published games, but there are 4 scenarios, 4 battles in the box, and Volume 2 is the exact same. We have got Monmouth, Germantown, and Newtown, and we've also got the Battle of Oriskany, which I believe was a companion to Newtown, which was focused on the sort of like Western New York battles with the Native Americans that the Continental Army engaged in. But the sort of marquee battle here, I guess, would be Monmouth, which is widely considered to be the best of the Battles of the American Revolution battles in terms of like how competitive it is and how much fun it is to play. So we're going to take a open of this box, and we're going to look at everything that comes in Tri-Pack Volume 2. All right, let's take a look at what comes in Tri-Pack Volume 2. So we have a deck of cards. We've got tactics cards. And we'll open this in a minute because I think this pack actually contains more than just tactics cards. But the cards were an innovation in the series that took the place of counters, chits, for resolution of tactical combat. Bag of baggies. I do think that this is probably going to be the best way to store this game since we do have 4 different battles. You can store the counter mix by battle rather than counter tray. We've got a very thematic set of D10s, blue and red. We have got the Battles of the American Revolution series rulebook. This is the latest version 2024. So if you have previous titles in the series, you'll want to use this. I don't know what the changes are between Volume 1's rulebook or even Battle of White Plains rulebook, which would have been probably the Battle of White Plains probably has the same rulebook in there. Love the artwork that's used in this series. Mark Miklos is very well versed in the colonial American period. He does historical reenactment as well. Out there on the East Coast. So the rule book is your typical GMT style, colored with examples. This is a very mature system. Like I said, it's been around for 26 years. It plays amazingly smoothly, and it is not too complex. I mean, as I flip through here, I'm almost at the end. So here is the leader section, page 13, and page 14 is the final page of the rules where it ends with army morale, and that's an important concept in this system. Then just another copy of the CRT and tactical matrix. So what this is, you'll see on the cards, is when you engage in battle, depending on what conditions you have available to you, you will choose a tactic for that battle, and the opponent will choose a tactic, and then you'll cross-reference whether or not it gives a DRM to the attacker or the defender. This is a huge part of the combat system. I know some people don't like it, but it provides a little bit of flavor and kind of outguessing your opponent. There's a little bit of a sort of multifaceted rock, paper, scissors here, 8 dimensions rock, paper, scissors when you're playing the game. So 14 pages, very well written, easy to understand, and then a sequence of play on the back. So those are your rules. And then we've got 3 separate booklets, one for each of the battles and the exclusive rules. Here we have Germantown. This is noted as the 2nd edition. Washington Strikes Back, October 4th, 1777. I believe I played this game on the channel. So as far as specific rules goes, there's not too many game-specific rules in these games. The one that I've seen the most of is in Battle of White Plains, but that's also a huge kind of, I would say, a monster game. This only has 7 pages of exclusive rules, and actually they really start on page 4, so it's really about 3.5 pages of exclusive rules for Germantown. And then there's a nice historical summary. These are always very well laid out with the portraits of the leaders. Chew House, as I'm reading this, I seem to recall doing a playthrough of Germantown on the channel. So if you could go check that out, you'll see this game in action. The order of battle, counter manifest, and then sequence of play. Sometimes they change up the sequence of play for the various different battles in the game. Here we have Monmouth Courthouse. It looks like Washington here leading the Continentals to the front against the British rearguard after General Lee threw up a cowardly quote-unquote attack. It's a great scene in the TV show Turn, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Turn, Washington Spies, about Washington's espionage network during the American Revolution at the Battle of Monmouth, where he walks up to General Lee and he's like, "What the hell are you about, man?" as he's like retreating from the field, and he forces the army to turn around and fight. One of my favorite scenes from that show. So here we have the special rules. I won't go through all of these books like in insane detail, but you can see the special rules, again, only 6 pages. We've got multiple scenarios for Germantown. We've got the historical scenarios. I think sometimes there's some what-if scenarios. This looks like a Washington Stand scenario. Some credits for the different editions, and of course the wonderful historical summary. If you have any interest in 18th century period, which I do quite a bit, these games are fantastic. They're not too heavy. You can usually play them in one sitting. It's just a lot of really nice stuff here. So here's Newtown and Oriskany. Like I said, there are actually 4 battles in this box. This is battles with the Iroquois Confederacy in Western New York. So these scenarios here, you're going to get a lot of irregular units, a lot of Native American units, and they actually have lots of special abilities in this system. They kind of function like light infantry plus other things. So here, this one may be a little bit, there's a whole section for Indian rules. This one may be a few more pages than the other battles we've looked at, but not by many. Only 9 pages of special rules, and again, covering both battles. We've got the historical scenario here. This is the Battle of Newtown, and then the Oriskany game. So we have a standard game. Here's the special rules. You know, a few pages. This one, special units. This one has a few more. Oriskany looks like it has more special rules than typical, but they're not actually that complex. Typically, it's just like telling you about howitzers work. They can fire without line of sight and so forth. Arnold's column scenario, the campaign scenario, I'm not sure what the difference is, and then the historical scenario. So this is a 4-turn game. This one easily playable probably in one sitting. Historical documentation, counter manifest, and so forth. Sequence of play for both games. So huge value in this package. You're also going to get charts and tables for each battle. It looks like two of each. So here's the Monmouth player aid. And the reason that the player aids are different is because sometimes there's different modifiers or reminders about victory points differences between games. Typically, they're usually the same. You'll notice that there's some variability between battles. So you get 2 for Monmouth. That's a fold out. You get 2 for Germantown. This is just a simple 2-sided player aid. Not as many info you need to consult there. You've got 2 for Newtown, and I would bet on the, so flip over, and then you've got 2 for Oriskany here. Usually the backside is going to be similar. You've also got a Newtown Indian capabilities chart, which is a nice player aid to have. So the capabilities and markers and what they do, where you put them, their effects on the game. This is probably useful as a reference. I do not believe the original Newtown had this in it, but I could be wrong. And here's one for Oriskany with the interphase tables. So I guess if you're playing the campaign game, it's a longer scenario. You might have some stuff that happens. Here, and this is great that they threw this in, is one of the best things I think about this system is that, we talked about the tactics table of having to basically guess what your opponent is going to do in a certain specific battle and what you're going to do and what's available to you, and you use the cards to choose a tactic and cross-reference it. This allows you to play the game solo because it is a generative table, and I think this was designed by Joel Toppin, and this is a copy of the chart that came in C3I way back in the day. And essentially what it does is when you are engaging in a battle, you will roll the dice depending on what kind of situation you find yourself in. So if you're engaging without a leader, or you could withdraw. Like withdraw is a tactic you could choose. You'd roll on this table. If you could not withdraw for some reason, you'd roll on this table, and you either use a D8 or a D6 or a D10 in some cases to essentially decide what gets chosen. And the way that I like to play solo actually is take the choice out of both players' hands. So I'll use this chart for both my side that I'm playing, and the chart that the sort of quote unquote the opponent is playing, and it gives you a nice little unpredictability. Like sometimes the soldiers will do something that you probably wouldn't have done, but it ends up working out, or vice versa. So this is quality. You can use this with any game in the series. And so if you have other games, then I think this tri-pack, I think this came with tri-pack number 1 as well. This is a great reason to pick this up, even if you own some of these games already. Here's a variant tactics table. This is reprinted from C3I22, so that's cool. We got some counter sheets. So I believe these are broken out by game. We've got Germantown. Here's the British. Americans. Got some militia in there. We got Anthony Wayne. There's George Washington, Nathaniel Greene, some of the other leaders. On the British side, we've got Grant, Musgrave. There's Cornwallis and Howe. And then the game markers you need to play. This is not a game marker heavy game. You really, the only ones that you're really going to need a lot are these D results, which are disorder, something like that. Anyways, these are the ones you're going to use most. But there's typically, you're not going to have a lot of marker clutter with this game. Here's Newtown and Oriskany, and you can already see how small these scenarios are. The Newtown here is on the left side. You got some Native American units and some British allies there. Americans, light infantry, some militia down here. Here is this is Newtown. This is Oriskany. More British on this side, and a few more Americans, along with Benedict Arnold. So you can get a sense of the artwork. Pretty classic traditional GMT stuff. And here is the Battle of Monmouth. So a much bigger scenario. Lots of British artillery in this one. This was the famous battle where the Americans stood toe-to-toe with the British on their retreat from Philadelphia back to New York. And you can see some of the generals: Monckton, Grant, Webster, Clinton, Cornwallis. So this one I can't wait to. I've actually not played Monmouth, and I'm really excited to play it. Last but not least, we have the maps. So here is the map for Monmouth Courthouse. There's a command and control table over here. Not quite sure how that works. It's turn-based. And then here is the battlefield. Here's the turn track. So it looks like it plays up to 14 turns. Here's the morale track along the side. So as your army morale decreases, your unit morale will get worse or better if you can improve it. And I believe most of the battle was sort of in this field here, in this general area around the courthouse. The British are withdrawing, I think, up this way, and the Americans coming down from this direction, if I'm not mistaken. And then if we flip to the other side, you will see, you will see that we have the map for the Battle of Germantown. So here is the Township Line Road. Here is Germantown itself. Schuylkill River here. I remember playing this, I think, I'm pretty sure I remember the Americans marching down this road in kind of two columns to take on the British. I'd have to go back and watch that video. This is a 10-turn game. Again, the morale track. Really nice artwork. I really love the way that the art on these maps by Charlie Kibler looks. He's done the series from the beginning, and they're just very evocative and very readable, and I love the color palette being very evocative of the period as well. So that's the first map. There are two maps in the game. I can get this folded up, and I will show you the other one. So here is the map for the Battle of Oriskany. They've got the sequence of play printed on the map. That's quite nice. Some of the various tracks you're going to use in this game. How you adjust those tracks. Indian Will is a big one. VP reminders, terrain effects, and then you've got kind of an interesting play area that's kind of like this long diagonal thing here. You've got an ambush success table, I imagine irregular warfare. Here is the relief column movement summary with a really nice fort diagram of Fort Stanwix here. So I'm not too sure about the history about the Battle of Oriskany, but looks like it really interesting. The terrain is like very dense with trees. You got this one road. It looks like perhaps a lot of fighting, and then Fort Stanwix is here. So possibly, here's the British HQ, so possibly the Americans coming up this way. Maybe a lot of chances for ambush along this road, who knows. I love a good star fort, you know. All right, and then if we flip this over, the other side is going to have the Battle of Newtown. So here we have the Chemung River. Here's Newtown, Chucknut, Sullivan's Hill. Again, sequence of play, ambush table. Similar rule sets probably for these two games because they were companions. We've got the pre-game Indian enhancement table. Here's Joseph Brant, the famous commander of the Mohawk that was allied to the British. And Major General John Sullivan, likely the American commander here. So again, we have a smaller map area here. It only takes up about, probably half of this board. A lot of elevation changes on this one. and this river here to the south. So this looks like a fun scenario to play as well, probably very easily playable in one sitting. And so that's what you get in the game. You get 2 full back-printed mounted maps. You get all those player aids and rules. Lots of content here, lots of replayable content. This game is quite nice to play, the same scenario over and over, just because the way that the game flows is can be very widely different. Last thing I want to show you is the cards and a little bit of what I hope is coming for this series in the future as far as anthologies go. Last but not least, here's a quick look at the tactics cards. So you'll choose one of these. It's got actually the grid on here, so you don't need to look at the player aid if you don't want to. But basically it tells you if you play this and they play this, based on the attacker and defender, this is the die roll modifiers that will happen. So, or based on if you're the attacker or the defender. So that's pretty cool. There's 1 deck for the British, 1 deck for the Americans. We've also got these opportunity cards. These are for Newtown. The system itself has added cards more regularly since the original design was published. And these are going to be special events that you're going to get: infiltration, scalps. These are going to be things that you're going to play that will sort of evoke some of the tactics and period flavor of the time. A lot of Native American, this is the British Native American deck. For the Americans, we've got a bayonet charge, solid art on that. Conotucarius, this name, which means town destroyer, was given to George Washington by the Iroquois following Sullivan's devastating campaign of 1779. Yeah, brutal. Fifes and drums, forced march, artillery baggage. So these are going to change up the gameplay a little bit, give you a little bit more dynamics. So that is the Battles of the American Revolution Tri-Pack, Volume 2. Amazing value. Definitely, if you have any interest in the historical period, this is one of the best sort of, I would say, tactical/grand tactical systems out there that's playable in sort of a reasonable amount of time. Now, this is 6 of the 10 volumes, I think, of the series that have been released. There are 4 more. The more recent ones, Battle of Rhode Island and Battle of White Plains, both have come out in the last few years. Those are available. I think actually they might still be available from GMT, but they're easily sourceable. The Battle of Rhode Island is 2 scenarios. That's about Benedict Arnold's raid, I believe, on Rhode Island. And then we've got Battle of White Plains, which is a monster game. It's like 47 turns or something. It's crazy. With a historical small scenario, but then like you can do an alt history, like play the whole thing if the 2 armies clashed in New York. Both of those are sort of in this modern component standard, but there are still 2 games that have not been released for Battles of the American Revolution in any sort of anthology. One of those is Savannah, which is the only game in the series that's 3 players, and it is actually quite a fascinating game. It's probably my favorite one that I've played. It is a siege game about the siege of Savannah, Georgia. 2 of the players play on a team, the Americans and the French. One of the players plays the British, who are going to be besieged, and there's a whole host of awesome stuff in this game. There's a sliding time scale, so before the siege begins and after the siege begins, makes the time scale change. The other thing is that there's a lot of command friction between the U.S. and the French, and both of those players kind of have a different, let's call it POV, about how they should prosecute what's going to happen next. This game was released in 2005, so we're talking 20 years old. It's a tough one to find, but it also card-driven. I think this is one of the first ones to add cards to the whole proceeding. It is a super fun time. It is a really interesting 3-player game. I really hope this gets reprinted in sort of a future... well, I guess it wouldn't be a tri-pack because there's only two games that haven't yet been re-released, but... let's call it a dual pack. If we could get Savannah, which is already a bigger game. I mean, this came in a 2-inch or 2.5-inch box here, as you can see, originally. And then the other one is probably the least talked about in my mind, and that is Pensacola. And this was the Spanish and the British in Florida, sort of late in the American Revolution. This is volume 6, printed in 2010. This one has never seen a reprint as well, and it looks like a pretty interesting game. It's one of the few games in the series that contains Spanish troops, which is interesting. And it would just be great to have these 2 games put into a dual pack, and then we would have the whole series basically 2 tri-packs, a dual pack plus White Plains plus Battle of Rhode Island, and then also we've got the Battle of Green Spring. Or is it Spring Green? I think it's Green Spring, coming out pretty soon. That'll be volume 11. So still a lot of material, still a lot of support for this particular system. And it would be great to get another anthology. Hey, if you're listening, Mark and GMT, these 2 games together would be quite a package. So that's your look at the American Revolution's Tri-Pack. I'm a big fan. Like I said, you should definitely check it out if you haven't. And thanks for watching.